Okay, so welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn with Emporia. We're delighted to welcome Michael Hess to talk through his presentation. So as per usual, if you have any questions, then just put them in the chat and we'll have time at the end as well for you to ask those questions and for Michael to answer them. So enjoy. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks so much, Lucy. Hi, everyone. Good morning for folks that are maybe here on the East Coast or in the US, and afternoon to folks that are over in the UK. Today, we're going to be talking about B2B Insights Simplified here, LinkedIn verified sampling for small businesses. Was connected to Lucy and Barbara and the ICG folks through Mike Stevens, who seems to be a pretty popular guy. So sounds like a lot of folks know Mike, and excited to share a little bit about our area of expertise, B2B sampling here, and hopefully there are some actionable takeaways for folks in the room. But I want to make this interactive, so we have the chat open. If folks have any questions, feel free to throw them in there, and we'll take them as they come. So without further ado, jump in here. Maybe just by way of quick introduction, got to slip a howdy in there. I just moved from New York City to Austin, Texas. So down here in sunny Texas. By way of just quick background here on myself, where I'm coming from, worked in information systems consulting for a couple of years before jumping over to global marketing at Marriott International, the hotel company, and currently am one of the co-founders and CEO of Emporia Research, where we're focused on delivering high quality B2B research outcomes. We position ourselves more so as a B2B audience solution, but probably what we're best known for at this moment is recruiting folks into targeted professionals into B2B research engagements. So surveys, interviews, focus groups, things that this crowd is certainly familiar with. As far as agenda here today, we've got 30 minutes, so we're going to pack in a lot, or as much as we can. So going to start with why B2B sampling is hard for small businesses. It's no secret that it's a bit more of a challenge for folks that have a little bit less personnel on the team and have to juggle many roles and responsibilities. We'll touch on just common pitfalls in manual B2B sampling. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on key questions to ask your sample provider. I think that might be the most important and relevant slide in the entire presentation, and worth spending a little bit of time on. And then we'll kind of start bringing things home with the benefits of taking a DIY approach to B2B sampling and kind of what the trade-offs are there. And then I'm going to switch gears a little bit and jump over to a separate screen and share a live targeting demo within our platform to share kind of what you have at your disposal, not just on our platform, but what you could expect on other DIY or self-serve platforms that offer B2B targeting, just for some, just general knowledge share there. And then touch briefly at the end on a small business program and partner network opportunities that we've got going on that might be relevant to this group. So jumping in here. So again, no secret that smaller shops, smaller firms have a challenge with B2B sampling. Probably the first and most obvious one is just limited resources, right? So small teams can't afford the time or cost of large, expert networks. Oftentimes the same person who is running the client relationship and doing the survey methodology is also responsible for sampling, and hard to put the onus on that one person or a few people to be experts in all of these areas. Credibility risks. So much of your reputation relies on just the past projects that you've delivered, unfortunately. And so super important to every time be buttoned up in terms of your sample quality, because at the end of the day, that's what's informing your insights. If it's garbage in, it's garbage out. And so important to have those high quality respondents and therefore insights to make sure that you've got maintain those great relationships that you've worked so hard to establish with your clients. And then thirdly here, just kind of related to the first, but scaling issues, right? So growth requires reliable, repeatable sampling methods. You don't have the benefit necessarily of, a global research firm or agency where you may be running the same types of projects or audiences every week, every month, every quarter. And, so oftentimes, audiences are brand new and, it's a little bit of a trust game with your preferred sample provider or partner, um, you know, getting into things. So some of the challenges with um, sampling for small businesses. How small businesses can quote unquote get burned in B2B sampling. I hope this hasn't happened to folks, but all too often we're in conversations where folks we've been introduced to folks because they have gotten burned in the past from sample partners that they've relied on historically. And the four kind of reasons that we see most often are unverified respondents, so folks that have maybe self-reported data in the panels that they've signed up for without any verification or authentication. Fraudulent data, which that first one might lead to this, but not always. So that can be duplicate respondents. You always want to make sure that your panel provider or maybe your survey verification or quality tools have duplicate IPs turned on, ghost clicks or click farm entries, hidden costs which come up and aren't really talked about all that much, but just poor data quality leads to more scrubbing, getting back into field, delays, resampling, all of that headache that comes with, kind of the first two challenges here, and then inconsistent targeting, right? So a bit more of kind of sorry? Oh, thought I heard someone come on the chat. Inconsistent targeting, so vague audience definitions and leading to just folks that might be real participants but might not be the most highly qualified folks for the project that you're going for. And so we always recommend really pressing your panel partner or sample provider on exactly how respondents are sourced and cross-referenced, and that kind of leads us into one of my favorite slides here, which is just key questions to ask your sample provider. And so if there's any slide to screenshot here, it's probably this one. So we can go through line by line here on some of these questions, and I'll share kind of why we think that they're important, and any quality panel provider sample partner should be able to answer these questions, no problem. So first and foremost, how exactly do you verify respondents' titles and roles? Again, all B2B focused, slightly different methodology and sample design and makeup when you're targeting professionals and not consumers. So how do you verify respondents' titles and roles? Do you leverage third-party panels or do you single source respondents? This is an interesting one, and we'll get back to this in a moment. In almost all cases, from folks that we've talked to, have shared with us when they ask this question, the answer is always we rely on our proprietary panel. We don't use other sources. But what we found, kind of running this business for the last 4 years and not coming from the industry originally, is that the dirty secret of the sample industry is that everyone has figured out how to buy from one another. It's kind of a black box, and you can never really tell if that is happening. So helpful to start with that question and ask if folks single source or leverage third-party panels. And again, we'll come back to that one. Can you walk me through exactly how you assess feasibility? Always helpful to understand kind of what levers you can pull so that you can work more as a partner, right, with your sample provider, your panel partner. It shouldn't just be a on your partner necessarily to come up with the best solution. It's a partnership. And so if you have an understanding of how feasibility is calculated, you can maybe go back to your client and what to maybe press on, or what you can kind of give up in terms of maybe your screener if you're seeing a low incidence rate in field, for example. How is CPI determined? So what are the main factors that drive this? Always helpful to kind of know what the split is between maybe a recruitment fee and what incentive is offered to participants. And to that end, how do participants sign up for your panel? What profiling information or authentication is or verification is required? How do you incentivize participants? If your B2B sample provider says that it's some form of points, I would say run away. We've surveyed our participants, quite a few times, and we look at, what organizations like Virtual Incentives and Tremendous and other incentive distribution partners have shared when asking their B2B, recipients, so to say, of incentives, asking them what their primary interest is in participating in research. And for better or for worse, the cash compensation is at the top of the list. And so we always get a little bit nervous when a B2B provider, says that there are points involved for participation and incentivization. How do you deliver? How do you ensure you can deliver on what you quote or promise? And to that end, what happens if we get into field and you can't hit targets? And this is somewhat of an interesting question, because oftentimes when you ask what happens when you get into field and you can't hit targets, the same panel provider who has told you that they will only single source respondents will share, oh, we've got a short list of partners that we can leverage at any time, right? To make sure that we can hit your full sample size. And a good follow-up question to that is how can I know, when that is happening versus when that's not happening? And it's somewhat of an uncomfortable question sometimes, but if you're working with a reputable, partner, they'll have a good answer to that. And last three questions here, kind of what just basics here, but what guardrails are in place to prevent fraudulent entries if you don't have something like a research defender or similar sitting on top of your survey? Always helpful to know what tools, homegrown or otherwise, that your panel provider has at their disposal to continue to make sure that only quality folks are getting into your survey. And lastly, how do you target qualified candidates, and can you handle niche or hard to reach audiences? There are we found different providers that excel in different areas, and just because one partner is fantastic with your IT or HR decision makers does not necessarily mean that they'll be able to fully support you on their truck drivers of rare earth metals in Alberta project. And so good to know kind of where folks' strengths and weaknesses are. I'd always ask for a capabilities deck and kind of geos and locations and management levels where folks excel. Benefits to a DIY approach. Okay, you can call us a little bit biased here because we have a self-serve DIY tool. There are certainly some trade-offs, but oftentimes things are a bit more programmatic and less manual, maybe obviously. But if you, for example, never wanted to see me ever again, you could still use the Emporia platform and run your projects, no problem. You can get in and drop in your audience, your end size, who you're looking for, and you're off to the races. You don't necessarily have to have that back and forth email exchange, getting a quote and then setting up redirects and all that bit, which I'm sure everyone here on the call is pretty familiar with. And so there's just a really nice benefit into just being able to log into a tool and get going. Secondly, here is just more visibility into respondents. Often leads to just more a higher likelihood that those respondents are real people and who they say they are. When you're the one kind of in the tool, pulling the levers, pushing the buttons, and seeing who these folks actually are, because you're the one that's targeting them, much higher likelihood that they're real professionals and are going to be a great fit for your study. And lastly, if you're really looking for expert network quality folks, you're not going to be faced with the same price point using a DIY or self-serve tool as, if you're going to go to a large, expert network or large, panel provider that focuses on B2B, where things are a bit more of a white glove service. So some of the benefits of going the DIY approach to a full partner approach with an agency or a panel provider, though there are some trade-offs. I mean, you do have to get familiar with a tool, right? And so there's the benefit of having someone do everything for you and it be a managed service. But those are trade-offs that, on a project by projects or basis are worth kind of considering. Cool. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and see if I can spring over our tool just to give you a quick targeting demo. So not going to focus on really any other aspects outside of the targeting demo here. And I'll keep my eye on the chat if there's any particular audiences that folks would want me to take a look for and filter for. Happy to. Otherwise, I'll maybe look for something interesting in the UK. But this is our platform here with our dashboard view with all of our active, draft, pause, close projects. I'll start with creating a project. So maybe I'll start with a survey here, skip some of the project details, and just jump over to this targeting tab. Again, what's nice, not just with our platform, but most self-serve audience solutions, particularly with B2B, is you can come in here and you can get pretty granular. And so we're not entirely unique in how we think about our methodology for sourcing and targeting. We work with the same types of data partners as a say a ZoomInfo or Apollo type of company or platform would, but rather than for sales and lead gen, we just apply a research recruitment lens to to everything that we do. So you can see some base filters here on things like location and industry and job title and company domain, seniority and so on. But you can get pretty in the weeds with types of folks that you're looking for. And Jeff, thank you for the audience there. I will take a stab at media buyers in the UK. So, but with some advanced filtering, you can really get pretty granular in who you're looking for. So you can drill down by sub-department or revenue range or company location, or oftentimes we're doing kind of small business or startup type of focused audiences where founded year or company funding are important, retail locations, etc. Got some other questions here in the chat. How would you search by engagement in a specific decision process rather than job title, which can vary massively by organization size, type, and country. IT resellers in France. So we can maybe do both of those. And Liz, to answer your question, I mean, there's certainly non-targetable criteria associated with any audience. And so typically, depending on what that is, you might kind of suss that out in a screener section where you get as close as you can, you make some assumptions in your targeting, and then you make sure that you're looking for the right folks are getting into your survey, depending on some of those screener questions. Both for a qual engagement or a quantitative project. So if we are looking for Jeff's audience of media buyers in the UK, I might drop in United Kingdom here. That maybe we'll say that's marketing and advertising. Although I guess that could be folks that aren't necessarily on the agency side, but maybe we'll say media buyer. Media buying. And this, at least for us, this job title field uses fuzzy keyword matching. So it's not necessarily the exact, job string or title here, but we'll do kind of a smart lookup and smart match to what is entered here to hopefully find, what you're looking for. So we'll look by seniority. So maybe we'll go manager to head or owner and leave these, other filters blank for now, but idea here is you spend a little bit of time again on our platform or any other self-serve DIY platform for audience tooling to find who you're looking for. So when you generate a sample set, at least how things work on our platform is we share a list of a small sample set of folks that match on your query, where you can see names, kind of titles, where folks work, and this is the same query and results that you'd get back if you were, on LinkedIn Sales Navigator or ZoomInfo or similar, where this is all, public information, but you can see folks and click into their LinkedIn profiles to see if they're representative. So Alicia here, maybe I'll click in and take a look. head of media buying and artwork production at this media agency group. At least how we've very, very quickly defined our, criteria here, a good fit, based on, those parameters. Idea, again, for us, but, you can make comparisons to other DIY tools, is you want to get all these folks looking pretty representative of the types of candidates that you're looking for. And what happens on our end is once you kick off your project, we'll scan all those profiles. So everything from headline and bio and skills and education and work experience and so on. And we'll create lookalike audiences to then start kind of going out and, programmatically recruiting for your project. Natalie, IT resellers in France. If you could give me maybe I'll just do this second audience here, but if you have any job title recommendation on that. I mean, I guess we could say reseller, but that might be more associated with owner, manager. That might be, more associated with kind of the company key terms. So let me see if I can drop that into company key terms, reseller. Doing this on the fly here, so we'll see. What comes back. Industry, maybe department, information technology. Let's see. All right, so that is a poor search on my end, but I think it's that job title. So, looking and removing that reseller from that job title, you've got some folks that are, the IT lead at, some of these firms. Again, not particularly familiar with some of these, but idea here is, you can start with what you think might make sense, and you can then jump into the tool, or again, any other tool here, and take a look and see, if Fabian, who's a sales and delivery services manager at this cybersecurity company, is a good fit. But we love a challenging audience. But yeah, agreed. There might be a poor IR there. IT reseller, IT retailer, sure. Okay, not having luck on some of the IT retailers, but maybe we can jump in. Happy to take a look and spend a little bit more time on an audience like that, Natalie. But thank you for the recommendation there. Maybe just jumping back to our slides, which are somewhere. No. You know what? Give me a quick sec here, folks, while grabbing these. Oh, there they are. All right. And then just last bit here before moving to any questions that folks might have. This is something that we are launching in the next couple of weeks. It's a certified experts program, or directory, so to say, specifically for small businesses. So thought relevant for this group, perhaps not fully there just yet, but in the coming weeks rolling this out. But essentially, we have a number of folks that use our platform who don't have the research expertise that folks here on the call do. And so they are looking for folks to help them with survey design or methodology or so on. We are, mostly product and technology folks. We do not claim to be researchers. And so this is not a service that we offer. And so building out this directory of folks that doesn't cost anything to be listed here, but obviously some familiarity with our tool is required. But benefits are, getting listed on this directory. You can share your services, set your rates, accept or decline opportunities from brands or larger agencies. So if anybody's interested in that, feel free to drop me a line, and happy to share a little bit more on kind of what is coming there. But looking at the clock here, we've got, maybe 5 minutes or so. So want to leave the time for any questions if folks have any.
Thank you, Michael. That was great and good timekeeping as well. I've just actually let someone in the last 5 minutes, but there will be a recording which I'll circulate to everyone so you can catch it again. And obviously, I'll put Michael's details. Are there any questions? I know that I think we've gone through the questions in the chat, but any other questions that people want to ask now?
Yes, I would like to just ask something. It's great you've sort of done the search of the media buyers for me. Thank you. Potential live job. So wonderful. We've quoted for it. But that's not the same as now having an appointment and having recruited them. So there's the bit from what you showed to getting them to be interviewed. How does it work from there on?
Yep. Totally. Great question, Jeff. And thanks for the audience. Hesitated to make this all about, us and our platform demo. Obviously, there's some next steps to, how you go from that recruited audience to having, or that targeted audience to having them, driven into your survey or other engagement. There's just a few more steps, Jeff. So after that audience looks good, you can go to a next screen where you can request costs and feasibility. Two ways of doing that. Basically, you can do it entirely on platform and get an automated cost and feasibility that's just trained on the last 4 years of historical outcome data from past projects at similar management levels, geos, titles, and so on. Or if you would like a real live breathing human to take a closer look at your audience, which surprise folks still prefer that, you can just request a manual review, and we try to target a 3-hour SLA on during normal business hours. We target the East Coast where we've got most folks, but we try and turn that around pretty quickly. But you can drop in your survey redirects and so on, or your survey link, and we'll generate those redirects and try and make those following screens as self-explanatory as we can. Also worth noting, the impetus for this directory is that we do have a very small managed services team, but they're becoming quickly overwhelmed, and so we're looking for help basically. But if you'd ever like someone to just basically do the work for you and not use the tool, we have a offering for that as well.
Okay.
We've just seen a question from Barbara. Can you see it, Michael? How do you get started?
Yeah.
Yep. Great question. So I have my email here, and I'll maybe just drop it in the chat. If you're interested in product access, feel free to shoot me a note, and I'll get you access to the platform straight away. There's no license or subscription fee. It's all, as you can imagine, should be similar in how you're working with other sample or panel providers, where it's just a cost per completed survey, interview, or otherwise.
Thank you. Got that email address. Any final questions? We've got a minute. Sorry, if I can't see you, just speak. Here we are, Liz. Oh, your team based in the US. US recruitment is much more expensive than here.
Yep, great question, Liz. So we're primarily here in the US. We do have a few folks that are outside the US, but we try and price folks depending on geo. And so we have global coverage in terms of sampling capabilities, but we do best in English-speaking countries, or where English is predominantly spoken in business. And so think, North America, Western Europe, and the UK, Australia, New Zealand, so on, are our strongest markets. But we'll price accordingly, because just as the maybe recruitment cost is more in the US, it's also because oftentimes we're because of kind of the exchange rates and so on, maybe offering a bit more in incentive to folks as well. And so we try and take those geos into account. But great question, Liz.
Thank you. Okay. I think we'll call it a day. Like I said, I'll circulate the recording with all the details. So obviously, if you've got further questions, then just get back in touch with Michael. And thank you so much, Michael, for your time. That's
and for getting up at 7 to present to us at 7 o'clock in your morning. Thank you
exactly.
so much.
Oh, you got it.
We can see the time behind you.
It's a breakfast and learn. This is my second coffee, so
good man. Thank you so much.
Many thanks. Stay in touch with us. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
everyone. Take care. Appreciate it.
Bye.